So good evening everyone, and welcome to our session about consultant job plan and appraisal in Northern Ireland. As Gillian has explained, we assist, support and represent consultants across Northern Ireland in relation to employment matters, of which a big part is job planning. We're here to help you every step of the way and to achieving a job plan that works for you, your patients and your trust. The job plan is an important part of the consultant's contract of employment, and it is an annual future-focused agreement that is discussed and approved jointly between you and your clinical manager. It provides you both with the opportunity to review your working relationship in terms of responsibilities and duties and the support provided by your employer to sustain and support patient care. And I am just trying to move to the next slide. Okay. So in tonight's session, what we want to cover, or what we thought we would cover, was the following: where to start with job planning, preparation for job planning, what should be included in your job plan, types of programmed activities, the job plan process itself, who does it and how is it done, how appraisal and objective setting fit in with job planning, the importance of a diary exercise, and the ending up with the dispute resolution. We have put useful web links in relation to the consultant contract and job planning process throughout the presentation, and I believe a presentation copy will be forwarded to you in due course and you'll be able to interact with that. And we would highly recommend that you review and become familiar with some of the information that is held within. In particular, there is the regional job planning guidance for Northern Ireland. Due to the time that we have tonight, it might be a bit of a whistle stop. We appreciate that you'll have all different levels of knowledge and experience with job planning, so I apologise in advance if this is teaching your granny to suck eggs, as they say, but we sort of wanted to just give it a bit of an overview, and as Gillian has said, if anyone needs specific advice or guidance, please don't hesitate in giving any of us a call. As we go along, feel free to populate the sidebar with questions, and if we can, we'll pick those up at the end. So with no further ado, where do we start? Your job plan is part of your individual contract, and this means that your employer must consult with you and try to reach agreement on any proposed change. The job plan must be fully agreed, not imposed, and based on a partnership approach with a fair resolution of differences. This is part of your terms and conditions of service, and a unilateral imposition could amount to a breach of contract. Having said that, job plans are not set in stone. There is an expectation that job plans will need to change over a period of time to reflect your varying needs, different service needs, treatment plans, new treatments, and so on. Either you or your line manager can ask for an interim job plan review at any time. You do not need to wait until your annual review if circumstances change affecting your work requirements or your workload. Appraisals and job plan agreements are separate processes but have significant links. Appraisal is largely a reflective process, looking back over a consultant's achievements, but also considers how achievements will be progressed and identifies any personal development needs. Job planning is largely a prospective process, looking forward to take into account the needs of the employer to deliver its objectives and to develop and maintain services for patients. It is important to note that appraisal process must be completed first before job planning, as your personal development plan and output of the appraisal is required to inform job planning. Ideally, the job plan meeting should follow shortly after completion of the appraisal process, allowing sufficient time for reflection on the appraisal discussion. You should not agree to propose changes if you believe them to be unfair. It is perfectly reasonable for you to say you're not happy or you require time to give it further consideration and come back. The terms and conditions set out a clear process in resolving disputed job plans, and the first stage of that is facilitation. And if agreement can't be agreed at that point in time, then you also have the option to request for a formal appeal. And Laura will cover that in a little bit more detail later on. As I said, job planning is a prospective exercise, and it should set out a timetable of activities and record a number for each type of activity that is included in the job plan. Being time-based helps to make it clear when activity is being done, reduces risk regarding double jobbing, being paid twice, or undertaking other activity when scheduled to do HSC job plan activity, including when you're doing your flexible SPAs. For most consultants, activities will consist of direct clinical care, DCC, and supporting professional activities, SPA, only. However, some consultants may have programmed activities for additional responsibilities, for example, clinical management roles, while others have other significant external responsibilities, such as Royal College or BMA responsibilities. Where your job plan has more than 10 PAs, the duties to which the additional PAs relate should be clearly identified, and the job plan should also set out the on-call arrangements. But your job plan is so much more than a timetable of your working week. It should also set out your objectives, what you aim to achieve professionally, and what would make your job more rewarding and effective. These must be agreed with you, together with any supporting resources that are needed to enable you to achieve those objectives and fulfill your job plan. This is part of the job plan that cannot be overlooked. It is an essential part of the meeting, and you should prepare your objectives in advance so they can be discussed fully and constructively. You may prefer to discuss objectives first in the job plan meeting to ensure adequate focus is given and to set the scene for subsequent timetable discussions. Finally, the job plan should include your regular private and fee-paying work you carry out. This information includes the planned location, timing, and broad type of work, and sharing it is intended to help avoid conflict between HSC responsibilities and private practice. So who does the job plan meeting? The terms and conditions state that the job plan review meeting should be conducted between the consultant and the clinical manager. The terms and conditions are silent on the involvement of a third party, such as a non-clinical manager. Third party involvement in the job planning discussion should therefore only be with the agreement of the consultant. Where there are a number of consultants essentially carrying out the same activities, it may make sense to conduct job planning as a team exercise and address any generic issues. However, there is no requirement upon you to participate in team job planning, and if you prefer, you can ask for an individual job plan review meeting instead. This might be preferable to you if you do not feel confident that your colleagues share the same needs in your job plan as you do. We're now going to look at examples of each of the categories of programmed activity that may appear in your job plan. Direct clinical care will usually encompass the majority of your activities, typically 7.5 to 8.5 PAs in a standard 10 PA job plan. It covers any work directly related to prevention, diagnosis and treatment of illness, and also includes emergency work arising from on-call. It includes outpatient activities, clinical diagnostic work, multidisciplinary team meetings, and any administration directly related to these activities, for example, letters to GPs, liaison with family and carers, chasing results, other admin time related to clinics and lists, clinical complaints, serious adverse events, and the like. Emergency work carried out while on call must be calculated when determining and agreeing job plan programme activities. It is separate to and in addition to the on-call allowance, sometimes referred to as the supplement. The best way to determine the appropriate level of PAs that can be contributed to emergency work while on call is via a diary exercise carried out over the on-call rota period. This can then be used to provide an average figure, which should be included in the job plan, remembering, of course, that during premium time, i.e. 7 PM to 7 AM Monday to Friday, weekends and bank holidays, a PA is 3 hours duration, and BMA can provide help with working this out. Any predictable work you carry out whilst on call, for example ward rounds, should be included in your job plan as part of your direct clinical care programmed activities. And moving on to supporting professional activities. Supporting professional activities, SPAs, are an essential part of your job plan, and they include things such as participation in training, medical education, CPD, informal teaching, and non-clinical audit. In addition, time spent on job planning, appraisal, and revalidation activities, and some mandatory training should also be designated in SPA time. The amount of SPA time that needs to be designated for revalidation alone is considered to be 1.5 SPA, which is 6 hours as recommended by the Academy of Royal Medical Colleges. Research activities and local clinical governance activities also come under the SPA category. SPAs are under increasingly aggressive scrutiny by cash-strapped employers. Unlike direct clinical care, SPAs do not bring money into the organisation. Nevertheless, SPAs are essential work that underpin your direct clinical care activities and cannot be ignored. In practice, job plans in Northern Ireland are reflective of a core 1.5 SPA quota in a standard 10 PA job plan. Given the fact that SPAs are under such pressure by employers, it is advisable to keep a record of all of your SPAs in order to provide evidence that you are using the time currently allocated to you, or indeed to demonstrate that you require more SPA time to fulfil your duties. It is entirely possible, of course, to receive more than 1.5 SPAs for your SPA time, providing it is for activities which have been agreed as part of your job plan. Objectives derive from your appraisal and the aims of your employer. They are personal to you unless you expressly agree to team-based objectives. Job planning, as the terms and conditions make clear, should be based on a partnership approach. It therefore follows that individual objectives must be agreed and not imposed, and they should be based on a reasonable expectation of what might be achievable. Your objectives should be SMART. They should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed to avoid any ambiguity about what is expected. It is time well spent by thinking about what objectives you would like to achieve and what you need to do so. Objectives can be related to safety and quality, activity and efficiency, management of resources, clinical outcomes and standards, local service objectives, service developments, and multidisciplinary team working. And finally, when considering objectives, you should be mindful of factors outside your control that may impact on your ability to achieve them. So consider what your trust needs to provide for you to enable you to meet your objectives, which objectives you would like to set, and how they can help you to achieving them. Supportive resources. Supportive resources are resources that need to do your job. You need to do your job and achieve your objectives. It is therefore important to identify what you need from your employer in order to achieve your objectives and fulfill your job plan. Remember, inadequate supporting resources and/or SPAs can impact not only on you achieving your objectives, but on other areas such as your revalidation. And my final slide before I pass over to Laura, what kinds of things can be considered as being supporting resources? These can include secretarial and admin support or audit and clinical governance support. You may need access to training or improved IT access to a particular database. Similarly, achieving your objectives may require adequate office space, an allocation of time, or improved support in the medical staff, for example, specialist nurses, physiotherapists, or other support staff. If this support is not in place following a job plan where it has been agreed that it is needed, you should ask for a job plan review and explain this. So if your secretarial support or clinical nurse specialist support changes, the trust may need to adjust your job plan and you are entitled to request this. Likewise, junior doctor rota gaps or unappointed posts can impact on you meeting your objectives, and this should be discussed and solutions found. If you're going to achieve a good outcome to your job plan review, then preparation is essential. Don't just think about getting through it without detriment. Drive the discussion towards getting improvement to your working life and the welfare of your patients. And I'll pass over to Laura now to take us through the remainder. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Lucinda. So preparing for the job plan review meeting. So if you believe some elements of your job plan are likely to come under scrutiny at the job plan review meeting, or if you want to build a case for more time to be allocated to some aspects of your job plan, for example, your SPA, then you really should be keeping a job plan diary over a representative period of time. This will provide vital, important evidence to help you analyse what's actually being done. BMA have developed the Doctor Diary application, which is a really useful tool, and you'll get more information later during the Doctor Diary presentation this evening. So as part of your preparation, consider whether there are workload problems within your working environment that need to be addressed. Do you have the resources needed to do your job safely and effectively, including adequate staffing levels? Also, if you're being asked to act down in emergency situations, which we're seeing more of at the moment, then this is an issue that should also be raised at the job plan review to agree steps to address the root causes of this. If there are issues with other staffing levels, such as nurses, which reduce the efficiency with which you can work, then you should also raise this, and the job plan should accommodate the extra time needed. So use the job plan review to be proactive. For example, are there ways to change the job plan in order to deliver a better quality service to patients? Is it possible to achieve a change in your role that would help you towards your career development ambitions, whilst also benefiting the employer? If you want a good outcome to your job plan review, then in advance of the meeting, you need to identify and gather all relevant information and data that you need to support your case. So this will include any previous job plan that you have agreed previously, any job plan proposal provided by your clinical manager, your job plan diary or your doctor diary reports, a list of your existing clinical responsibilities, any previously agreed additional duties, proposals for SPA, details of proposed external activities, details of your private practice, any clinical governance or audit issues, your objectives linked to your PDP, and also any ideas then you may have for improving the service. If you can, do try to avoid a confrontational approach at the meeting and aim for an outcome that both sides are happy with. Remember, the job planning process should be based on a partnership approach, as Lucinda said. It isn't something that's done to you. You're an equal partner in the process, and any discussion and agreement should be conducted on that basis. Starting off with the objective setting, as Lucinda said, before moving to timetabling may be something that you should consider. So when it comes to the meeting itself, then be clear in advance about who is going to attend. Any third-party attendee should only be there with your express agreement. Confirm that the sole purpose of the meeting is your job plan review and not any other matter. It's also useful to ask in advance if there are any particular issues or data sets that will be raised, so you'll have time to consider them in advance. If this is sprung on you at the meeting, it's not unreasonable to ask for the meeting to be deferred to be given time to consider your response. And make sure that sufficient time has been set aside for the actual meeting, at least about an hour, and that the meeting will be free of interruptions. This is a negotiation. Essentially, the employer wants to maximise return on its spend, and you want to maximise return for your effort. So do be prepared for robust discussion. Try not to personalise it, but be assertive and not aggressive. If you do agree and finalise the objectives and the timetable in your meeting, then that's great, all well and good. Get it put in writing as soon as possible after, so that it can be signed off by both parties, because unless it is signed off, it's not formally agreed. If you don't agree the objectives and or the timetable at the meeting, then there may need to be further information obtained by either or both parties, and a further job plan review meeting may be agreed. If this is the case, then we would advise that you follow up in writing with your clinical manager regarding your understanding of the discussions and also any outstanding issues. You should not sign up to a job plan review that you believe to be unfair or unacceptable. If you feel at any time you're being undermined, bullied or harassed during the process, then do contact yourselves, as this is totally unacceptable. So if you aren't happy with the job plan proposed, you can decline to sign it off and request facilitation. This would normally be with the medical director or their designated deputy, provided they are not compromised through direct involvement earlier in the job plan process. Facilitation request outlining the position must be submitted within 2 weeks of the disagreement. The medical director or the designated deputy should then arrange a meeting within 4 weeks of the referral with the doctor and the clinical manager. The facilitation and appeals process do form part of your terms and conditions. You have a contractual right to seek facilitation and, if necessary, take forward to appeal, and you shouldn't be subjected to any detriment because of exercising this right. The facilitation and appeal process provide an opportunity to discuss your job plan fully and openly, with both sides of the dispute being heard and considered impartially. In the facilitation process, make sure that all the evidence to support your case is brought into the discussion, and we can help you with this. It's essential that all disputed issues are identified within the written facilitation request, as only these issues can be progressed to appeal, and it's not possible to introduce further issues at a later date. Also, no disputed element of the job plan should be implemented until confirmed by the outcome of the appeal process. At the facilitation stage, unfortunately, you don't have the contractual right to BMA representation, although you can ask your employer and they may agree. However, you can ask for an adjournment at any time during the meeting and have a BMA advisor at the end of the phone in order to obtain advice from ourselves. So the overwhelming majority of job plan disputes that we see coming through the office are resolved at the facilitation stage. But if you don't agree with the outcome of facilitation, you do have the right to take the matter to the formal appeal. At this stage, you are entitled to have a BMA colleague present, and we will help you every step of the way. An appeal must be lodged in writing to the Chief Executive of the Trust as soon as possible, and in any event within 2 weeks of the outcome of the facilitation process being formally advised. The appeal should set out all the points in dispute and the reason for the appeal. Chief Exec should then arrange an appeal panel to meet within 4 weeks. And the appeal hearing will take place in front of a 3-member panel, which will consist of a management side nominee, your own nominee, and a 3rd member taken from a list which is jointly managed by the BMA, BDA and Department of Health. If there's any objection raised by either the consultant or the employer to the first representative from the list, one alternative representative will be allocated. And again, no member of the panel should have been previously involved in the dispute. Both sides will then be invited to present their case. Each side may be questioned by the panel and by the other side. At the end, each side will be given the opportunity then to sum up their case. And the appeal panel will then make a recommendation in writing to the Trust Board, which is normally within 2 weeks of the appeal having been heard and will normally be accepted. So the consultant should see a copy of the recommendation when it is sent to the board. The board will make the final decision and inform the parties in writing. So finally then, just remember that BMA are here to support you through your job planning process from start to finish. Our first point of contact colleagues can be contacted on the number on the screen there, and local colleagues are ready and willing to help you should you need our input. Preparation really is key, and by attending this presentation, you should be on the way to a constructive, respectful and straightforward meeting. So good luck, and thank you for listening.